Hello and welcome back to Called to Homeschool with me, Meg, your homeschool coach and guru. Finished up 17 years of homeschooling with 7 kids. It has been a wild and amazing an adventure, and I am always excited to be here and to do another episode for you. So, last week I did an episode on answering your questions that I got on Instagram. And so I have gone on in my Instagram bio, there's a link and you can go in and actually go in there and ask your questions to have them answered on the podcast. I actually also made it an option if you're like, Meg, I'd actually love to talk to you and get coached on the podcast. I'm making that an option too. So I'm excited about that. I just think when I get to actually answer your questions, it's so stinking helpful because they are the questions a lot of people are thinking and asking. You can do it anonymous, or you can leave your name, whatever fits your fancy. You can come on the podcast, or just have me read your question. And so please go over to Coach Meg Thomas on my Instagram, and in that bio, you will see where you can get your questions answered. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to bring that onto the podcast this year. I also have some interviews coming up that I'm really excited about. So um, just have a great lineup coming on the podcast. So I wanted to do a special podcast for Father's Day. And maybe you're thinking, Meg, what the heck? You did not do a special one for Mother's Day. And I'm sorry. I was in a mood and I just did not feel like it. I think I get so tired of the Mother's Day message of, excuse me, of all mothers just love their babies, naturally just love their babies. And sometimes, like, maybe you've ever been in this boat where you don't feel like you love your children all the time, like you love them and you protect them, but maybe you don't like them all the time. Maybe you're in a position where your mother was abusive and you're like, well, then what was wrong with me if my mother was abusive to me and didn't love me? And you're saying all mothers should just naturally love their babies. So sometimes I just get a little burned out with Mother's Day messages. So I'm sorry that I didn't do one. But know that I always I love moms, and that's who all my podcast episodes are for. So know that I just always love you and I'm always rooting for you. But I did want to do a special one for Father's Day, but for the homeschool mom. And I'm really excited to dive in this with today. So Father's Day is just around the corner and in a couple days. And so today's episode is called Lessons from Dad: What Our Kids Learn by Watching Him. And here's a really beautiful truth: dads don't have to be teaching from a lesson plan, doing your curriculum, anything like that, like to actually be part of your structured homeschool day, to be teaching something deeply valuable. So, whether your husband is an all in homeschool, and I've had some awesome clients tell me how their husband takes different subjects and he's like super in. I think I've had before on the podcast, and maybe I didn't do it on, so I won't say his name, but he wanted to actually homeschool his kids. And he did a week long of homeschooling the kids. And just you have some dads who are all in as far as that. And then you have some dads who are more hands off. And maybe he's just reading bedtime stories every night, or helps on Saturdays, or helps in different ways. This episode is a reminder that he's teaching just by being who he is. So let's start with this. Kids are always watching. And I talk about this often, right? That our example speaks so stinking loud. And dad's example is also speaking very loudly. So they learn just as much, if not more, from observation as they do from instruction. And while we're over here with books and unit studies, planners, curriculum, dad might be teaching just by doing life. So some of the things that he is teaching that he may or may not know is the way that he handles stress at work, the respect he shows to others, the way he talks to and about mom, how he prays, rests, works, serves, or leads. These are all living lessons, quiet but powerful ones. So here are some 5 things I want to talk about, of the 5 things kids can learn by watching dad. And this is just like dad, it maybe isn't really fully involved in homeschooling. I know my husband doesn't. We tried in the very beginning for him to teach foreign language because, like I've said, I can't remember how many languages he speaks, but 8 or 9. He's a master with them. And we actually tried to make it a school subject in the beginning. And I would bring the kids to his office. And it quickly became them watching cartoons and donuts, which they loved. But I thought, well, actually, then I'll just keep them home. So it didn't work for us. And my husband's schedule for him to do structured, like sit down part of our homeschooling day And so, but he is still teaching them so many things. And it's been interesting as they've gotten older and our kids have gone and served a mission more places where they needed to learn a different language that like he was all in. And so he wasn't doing it. He's never going to be a super structured guy. But like a lot of Sundays he would do it, or like, hey, Thursday night I'm available. And he is just a master with languages. It is insane. There was one summer night he was doing Spanish for a bunch of us. My one daughter wanted to learn French, and then a friend of ours wanted to learn Greek. And he was literally changing in between those three languages and English, like all at the same time simultaneously. And I thought, oh my gosh, you are like blowing my brain right now because I can't even, like, my Spanish stinks. And so, like, it's just crazy. So he does teach in that way, but he doesn't do the structured homeschool stuff. So if your husband's that same way, here are some 5 things that kids are learning just by watching dad. So one is his work ethic. And husbands have all different types of jobs, different things that they're doing, but what is dad's work ethic? And I want to remind you to focus on the good here because just like we can easily get on and attack our children, say like, "Oh my gosh, this kid is so lazy. They do XYZ. Let me prove to you how lazy you are." Your brain is gonna find that. So if you wanna look for the good, like, here's dad having good work ethic, just like I tell you with children to notice it, to say it, to compliment him. We wanna do that same thing. We can bring out even, like, the beautiful traits of your husband. You can really bring those out. So watching his work ethic, do they see dad getting up early? How does he show up for work? Does he take pride in a job well done? It teaches them that hard work matters. And so you have a husband who does can build stuff, right? Like super amazing. My kids get to so my husband's an entrepreneur in the most truest sense, meaning that he loves to have a bazillion companies going at the same time. And one of them is renewable energy. And the kids have got to go with him some of his jobs of installing solar or batteries. Um, they've helped him with he owns a financial company, so mailing packages, and so he's actually got to include them as much as he can with some of his work stuff. So if that's your husband too, fantastic. And if not, maybe they just see dad getting up and leaving really early in the morning. And we have this really powerful ability as mothers where we can build that up and saying like, wow, dad is so amazing that he works so hard for our family. Or we can totally destroy him in front of the kids. Like, your dad is such a butt. Like, he's never here for breakfast in the morning with us. It's so lame, isn't it? But just like how much power we have by just saying, like, it's so awesome that we have a dad who works so hard for us. And in our family, obviously I work now, but I didn't work for most of like any of with our kids growing up and homeschooling and stuff. And so living on one income and just that meant sometimes he had longer hours or a lot of longer hours or doing different things. And instead of like, geez, your dad should be here, I'm just saying things like, I'm so proud of your dad for working so hard and providing so well, working so hard and providing so that I can stay home with you guys. That takes a lot of work and dedication on his end. And it took some sacrifice, right? But we totally made it work. So remember, you have a lot of power in how your kids are seeing and viewing their dad and whether or not they're seeing that as a positive experience. Another thing that kids learn by watching dad is how to treat others. Kids learn so much from how dad treats you, how he talks to the waiter, or how he helps a neighbor without expecting anything in return. Once again, focus on the good things, right? Instead of throwing your husband under the bus with some of these things, like, I wish he were nicer here. But where is he nice? Where is he kind? Where is he good? And putting those things out, like, oh my gosh, you just helped this nice old lady at the grocery store when you didn't have to. That was so sweet of you. And just really helping build that up. One is emotional strength. Whether your husband is outwardly expressive or more reserved, kids learn how to process emotion, how to respond under pressure, and how to recover from mistakes just by watching him. Now, this is interesting. I have actually never seen my husband cry. And he said he has cried one time in front of me when his father passed away, but I did not see that. So that's been interesting. He has a very stoic nature about him because he does handle a lot of stress and a lot of pressure and just showing them how he does it. But if you have a husband who's more emotional, right? Like pointing out where that could be good too. And so we've even had to tell our kids, like, some boys do cry and it's okay. Your dad just doesn't happen to be one of them. Uh, so it's like what great about your dad and how different it can be for so many different people. Number 4 is faith in action. If your home is built on faith, then dad's spiritual life speaks volumes, whether it's praying before dinner or getting up early to read scriptures. These moments don't need to be big to be formative. And it's um, just another thing that like you can do to help facilitate it. We actually juggled our scriptures around because for years I just didn't include dad because I'm like, this doesn't work with our schedule. And now he one day was like, can I be a part of scripture? So we moved things around. So we usually do scriptures before breakfast so that he can participate with us. And that was really awesome to have him because he brings so much more knowledge than I do. He just studies at such a deeper level and he's learned so many different languages. He learned Hebrew to understand the Old Testament better and Greek to understand the New Testament better. And so he brings in Hebrew culture and different cultures, different traditions and stuff at the time so that we just understand it better. So it's really, really awesome. And we always love when my kids have to give a talk or something and they're like, let me break down the word for you of this. And my husband's like, yes, I love when they do this. The etymology of this word means this. And so like that's totally something he's inspired them with. Integrity, when dad keeps his words, owns up to his mistakes, or stands for what's right, even when it's hard. Your kids are learning what character looks like. So there are some 5 things that your kids can learn by watching dad. But I want to also focus on those moms who feel like dad is not doing enough. And maybe you're in a hard spot right now. And life totally has ups and downs. And you have times your relationship's amazing and times maybe that's trying. And so I see you, I coach you, I get to hear all these things. And so I don't want to be too rose-colored goggles and like, oh, marriage is just perfect and 100% easy all of the time. So those of you who are maybe in a rough spot in your marriage, I wanted to leave a message for you too. And maybe you feel like you are doing all the homeschool things and dad isn't involved at all. First, let's talk about grace. You're not alone. A lot of people carry that same quiet frustration at times. But I want you to gently remind you that involvement doesn't need to look like teaching math. Sometimes the best things dad can be in the homeschool life is maybe emotional stability, laughter at the end of a long day, or a strong hug that resets the mood. Maybe it's even playing with the kids, roughhousing, something completely different. If you're like, he's not really spiritual, he's not like he doesn't have a job right now, well, then find the stuff that he is bringing and focus on those things and really help to help him see the good in himself. Because when people feel good about themselves, they do good. So we want to help make sure that we're being more positive and helping. And maybe if you're in a rough spot and he's struggling, to be there for him and realize he doesn't have to be on all the time and look at what he is bringing and focusing on those things. And I want to end with to not forget about your marriage. So obviously I'm a homeschool coach. I love homeschooling. I love families. I love children. But unfortunately, homeschooling is a part-time gig. And I often think about this. If we'd stopped having kids, like only 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, I would completely be done homeschooling. But I have my, how old is he? 14-year-old. He'll probably just be doing homeschool with me for maybe 1 more year, and then he'll switch to maybe an online program and technically still be homeschooled, but he won't have a lot of involvement with me anymore. And then down to my youngest, eventually your babies grow up and eventually homeschool ends. And to remember this relationship with your spouse. I saw years ago that all of these moms were putting in mass amounts of work and effort into their children and their homeschool and these really beautiful things, but they weren't putting any real effort into their marriage. And so when kids grew up and moved out, mom and dad got divorced because there wasn't this connection, there wasn't this bond, there wasn't anything that they were doing to make sure that they were also growing together as well. So, your marriage is the foundation your kids are watching and building their future relationships on. So this Father's Day, let's not just honor him as dad. Let's remember to cherish him as your person, your partner, the one you choose and you are still choosing. I think I could do a full episode, lots of episodes on marriage. And actually one of the interviews I'll be doing this summer is with a men's coach. And I'm really excited about that to get a man's point of view from that. But to remember that marriage needs to come first, even though homeschooling is our job and it's super important to make sure that we are prioritizing that relationship. So making time for the 2 of you. For us, that's a date night every week. maybe your conversations before bedtime, in the morning, a moment to pray together at the end of the day, reading a book together. That's what something we're doing right now because maybe we don't get a lot of time together during the week. So we're reading the same book. So we actually got two copies and we're just reading the same book. So we have something that's just building us together. We're really good about date night, just little things like that. And so here's a challenge for you this Father's Day. Let's tell dad the good we see in him, the little things that he's teaching the kids, maybe without even knowing him. Let's say it out loud. Let's thank him in front of the kids. Let's remind him what you do matters, even when it's quiet. And let's not forget that the strongest homeschool homes are built on the strength of the marriage underneath. So, as a homeschool moms, we often focus on curriculum academics, but sometimes the most important lessons aren't written in a book. You can tell I've been losing my voice, so I apologize. Um, the most important lessons aren't written in a book, they're written in the everyday through a steady presence of a father. So this Father's Day, let's celebrate the silent servants, the ones that our kids watch every day from the man they call dad. Friends, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope this episode leaves you feeling encouraged and maybe gives you an idea or two of how you can bless the dad in your life this week. Until next time, friends, I will see you next week. And don't forget to go and sign up for your questions in my Instagram. Ask me anything, and I'd love to answer those things.